Welcome to the Fit Fellows podcast. With over 40 years of combined personal training experience, they are ready to share their knowledge with you to help you grow your business, keep your client communication sharp, and be confident and fulfilled in your career as a personal trainer. Pay attention, because the Fit Fellows be spitting knowledge. Here are your hosts for the show, Russell, Michael, and Michael.
Hey.
Thanks for tuning in again to the Fit Fellows podcast. Today, we are going to talk about what is it like to work at a big box gym?
Big box.
What's a big box gym? I say that because people refer to it as a big box.
Right, in the trainer world, there's a lot of lingo that we're going to have to catch up some of the audience on. But yeah, big box gym.
What is that?
Corporate gyms.
Yeah.
Commercial facility.
Awful places. Just kidding. 24-hour fitness, LA Fitness, Equinox, any of your big corporate membership gyms, nationwide, region-wide, Planet Fitness. Don't ring the, what do they got, that little circle thing, the light thing? The
Planet, is that Planet Fitness?
Planet Fitness, yeah. They have
Crunch.
Yeah.
Crunch.
Yeah. Yep, Crunch.
Okay. Well, before we get into that, we got
Gym embarrassing moments.
with Mike.
Gym embarrassing moments.
Little Buster. So, since we're talking about big box gyms, working at Bally Total Fitness for 7 years, I had plenty of embarrassing moments there. It was a 2-level facility, and for me, I was always running from client to client, trying to get to the next one, trying to keep gains and make sure I maintained some weight. So eating was always a task for me, working there. So I always would go up these huge stairs with food in my hands and, trying to rush to get to the next client. So one day in particular, I remember having a protein shake, some fruit, and a bag of nuts as I'm running up the stairs. And of course, my feet are fairly large, and I missed one step and fell on the stairs, dropped all of my protein shake all over the floor. The food, everything just fell through the cracks. And as I'm sitting on the stairs, looking up at my client, looking at me with their hand on her watch, like,
Yeah.
it's still time to go. Get up off the ground and let's go. So that was definitely my gym embarrassing moment of the day.
I feel like that's going to be a common thread amongst trainers, where there's an embarrassing moment of like spilling a protein shake all over something or someone.
Right.
Well, I don't do protein shakes anymore, but the memory of like if you forgot to wash out your cup.
Oh, the smell of that stuff is outstanding.
You just got to throw those away.
All right, so back to what is it like to work at a big box gym? So I started at LA Fitness. That's definitely considered a big box gym. But where did you guys work at?
I worked at Bally Total Fitness. I also did LA Fitness for about 2 or 3 months when Bally Total Fitness got bought out.
Interesting. I worked at Equinox. It was my big box experience.
Equinox is a little bit higher end than LA Fitness and Bally's, but still a corporate gym.
Yeah, very much so. National gym, basically industry standard for quality, but yeah, a big, huge box gym.
Right.
Okay, so for the listener who's thinking about getting into this career, most of the time they're going to think about joining a big box gym first, right? So we want to share what that's like, what that experience is like. So let's start with the hiring process. What was that like for you guys? What did you guys need? How did you guys get hired?
That was a nightmare for me.
Mike's got lots of nightmares.
Goodness, yes. But, it worked out, I guess, in the long run. So for me, I was in school for kinesiology, and I was thinking about what I wanted to do after that, and training came up. So I got certified first, and started applying at commercial facilities like 24-Hour Fitness and Bally's. I didn't hear back from 24-Hour Fitness in multiple locations, so, shame on you guys. And then I went to Bally's, and I applied at maybe 7 different gyms, and only got a call back from one, and went through the hiring process there, which was awful because I filled out an application. The head trainer said that I did it wrong. I had to come back.
You filled out the application wrong?
Right. Little Buster. Right. So I had to come back and fill out again. I let him coach me through filling it out, make sure everything was right, send it back, and it got rejected again.
Shut up.
So I had to come back in, and we did some doctoring or whatever again on the application, and finally got it in right. Didn't hear back from him until, maybe almost 2 months.
Wow.
So I had already kind of wrote it off like, oh, well, maybe I'm just not supposed to be a trainer, and this is, what I have to just deal with. So he finally calls me back, and he says, oh, Mike, finally, everything went through. This happened, that happened, and we can get you in for your, for your interview, or not your interview, but basically your training. So I came in and started doing my training for about a month, going through their certification process, and everything else is history.
Wait, so you had a kinesiology degree, and you still had to go through their training process?
Right.
You didn't have a personal training certification, is
No.
basically what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they also have in-house, you have to go through their booklet, their training.
Curriculum.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
What's it like at Equinox?
Okay, so Equinox is probably pretty similar to most gyms. My story is a little bit fun in that, I was from Montana. There's not an Equinox in Montana. There's the spring Equinox and there's the fall Equinox, but there's not a gym Equinox. Exactly. Good joke. So I had just graduated college, and I got personal trainer certification. I got the CSCS, pretty much the highest standard you can get in personal training. And so I was like, all right, I want to try and go somewhere big with being a personal trainer. I've done it for a couple of years in college while I was being a student, and then got the certification. So I thought, well, I wanted to come to Los Angeles and pursue acting, and then do training down here too. There's no better place in the world to do personal training than Southern California. So I applied to Equinox, and a similar story. I applied, and I think about maybe 7 to 10 days went by, and I didn't hear anything back. I thought, okay, well, I want to find out what the deal is. And so I called the gym down here in Pasadena that I applied to, and the guy said, oh, I don't remember seeing your application. Send me it again. So I was like, all right, cool. So I sent it, and a couple of days later, he did call me back, and he said, hey, we liked your application. When can you fly down for an interview? I said, well, here, I'll schedule it, and I'll send you and fly down. So I flew down for an interview, and interview process was pretty basic. I went in, I talked with the personal training manager. He got to know me, went over my resume. I talked with the training manager, and got to know him and my resume. And then they took me out on the floor, and they had me do a demonstration personal training session.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And so they basically said, okay, and so they brought somebody into like the office, and they said, okay, do get to know this person, evaluate them, how you would do it. And so I did an evaluation and found out, what they're wanting to train, what their agenda is, what their goals are trying to reach. Went out and did a personal training session for an hour, and then went back into the office and tried to close them on personal training package, because they wanted to see your closing abilities or your abilities to try and sell training after you've done a session, a practice session or a trial session with someone. And then they said, okay, cool. We'll call in the general manager, and he wants to come and talk to you. And so I sat there in the office, and the guy who runs that Equinox came in and talked to me, got to know me a little bit, asked me some questions. And then he said, okay, we'll get back to you. And that was basically that. And then the next day I was walking up and down Hollywood Boulevard with a friend of mine from Montana who was living in Santa Monica. And they called me, and they said, hey, you got the job. When can you come back down? I said, well, I got to go home and pack up my life, throw it in the back of my truck and drive back down here. But 3 weeks later I came down. But yeah, basically, the long story short, my process was sending the application. They called me in, they got to know me, and they did an interview. And then that was probably 45 minutes to an hour. And then I did an hour personal training session, the whole package, meet the person, evaluate them, do a session, try and book them for training. And then they're like, okay, this guy, either can do it or not. And then they had the general manager come and meet me. And then from there. So it was a pretty big process. It was quite the journey.
So my story is a little bit different. I mentioned in a previous episode that I wasn't happy with what I was doing, right? And someone said, what are you doing in your spare time when you're not getting paid? I'm at the gym,
Right.
working out. So anyway, that's sort of how I part of how I got into it. But I was at LA Fitness, and they're structured a little bit different. So they have a training sales team that does all the sales. Like every new member that comes in has to get a free session, and then they get sold on training.
Right.
And then they have the actual trainers. So the position that I started at was a training manager. Okay, I go in, I demonstrate, I do a training session with the people, and then I sell them on training. And then they go and train with someone else.
Right.
And I was like, wow, that just doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good for me.
Right.
That doesn't feel good for them because they're excited because they're working with me. They're first.
Just build rapport.
Right. And I was like, this doesn't feel good. I don't know if they still do that now, but that didn't feel good. And finally, I just said, I'd rather do the training side because it just feels better to me. I said, can I sell my own training? And he said, yeah. So anyway, so that's how I made it to be a trainer at LA Fitness. But the getting in was similar, though. I think, had to have a certification interview, but they had already known that I can work with clients. But if you are interested in doing this as a career, there is going to be some sales. needed.
Lots of sales.
Lots.
Man,
Lots.
it's like half the job.
So yeah, so what's it like at a big box gym with sales? How much do they pressure you to make sales, or what's that like?
For me, I had a definitely, or I had an evolution of sales, I should say. So when I first started training, they give you a bunch of first workouts that, you give them a workout, you bring them into the office, you hand them over to the training supervisor, and he tries to sell them based on what you did. So I did that initially and wasn't getting any business, because it didn't feel like I was in control of things, and they don't know what I do, I don't know what they do, and it wasn't working well. So I remember this gentleman was a supervisor there, just sales supervisor, who came in, and that's where everything changed. So he started kind of pushing me to sell these things myself. He would sit me down with people, and he would talk with me, and so I started kind of picking up some skills from him about how to communicate with people, how to be confident, in what you do and try to explain things to people. And so from there, I started applying those skills that I learned from him to my own sales. And after that, I hit the track running. It was about building rapport and building value for what they need instead of what you can do for them. And from there, it just became, secondhand nature.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I didn't like selling. I don't particularly like it, but it's a necessary part of working at a big box gym. And even when you go independent,
Right.
the thing that you're selling is really yourself, though, right?
Right.
And I sort of learned that lesson as I went. There was a lot of pressure to sell, a lot of pressure from management when I was working at LA Fitness.
Right.
The numbers. It was always like on your back.
numbers. Yeah.
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 And they must have been feeling a lot of pressure. I'm sure it's still very similar to that.
Right.
I don't know what it's like there, but just the constant influx of new trainers leaving those places makes it
Trainer
seem,
turnover.
yeah,
Right.
that they don't really incentivize you to stay. I'm not saying it's a bad place to start,
Got to
right?
start there.
But so my experience there with sales was like that. Once I could sell my packages myself as a trainer, that felt better. But the way that they would instruct me to talk to everyone and do this, that just didn't fit my personality, right? But what fit me more was be myself on the floor. People are observing you all the time,
Right.
whether you know it or not, because you may get someone come up to you, you've never seen them, but
Right.
they've been watching you for months, right?
Yep.
Right.
Watching how you carry yourself, watching how you interact with the clients, watching your professionalism, and that stuff
I got
really
a great
matters.
story on that one sometime. We'll come back to.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. People notice, right? People notice your passion, your energy, and that's gonna be for me, anyways. That was my biggest selling point.
Right.
So
Right.
Yeah, definitely the sales is a huge pressure point. At Equinox, I worked at Equinox for a month and I didn't make a single sale. And that was pretty rough. I actually made like a sale so to speak. And then the guy came in on Monday morning. He's like, "No, I decided I can't do this." It's like, "Ah, come on, man."
Thanks, you were my first one.
Exactly. So yeah, sales is tough, and it's tough at a box gym too because you can only sell to the members. Right. Like that's what I kind of finally ran into a little bit once I got some leverage or some traction in training was if you wanted to train with me, you had to be a member of the gym I was a trainer at. So the sales is difficult because there's only so many fish in the pond that you're trying to sell in. Right. All the other trainers are trying to sell, however many trainers are there. And so there's just this, it's just like, man, it's like a dog eat dog world, and it's very tough and there's a lot of pressure. And sales is a tough part of the personal training journey. I think it's more tough at a corporate gym than kind of like what you learn are like the really important elements of sales.
Yeah.
And then when you go out on your own, then I think it actually becomes a lot easier.
Right.
I think there's just so much heavy weight on sales in a corporate gym that make it's a tough journey.
Right.
I've heard a lot of stories of trainers talking about like poaching clients and going after people.
Yep.
I personally have never experienced that, but do you guys experience that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about poaching, but I definitely, have had some experiences where, someone will train with another trainer because whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And so not necessarily where they're coming up. That's more been on the private sector where they come up to your client like, oh, I can give you a better deal or something, but in the.
You had that happen here?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, for sure.
Have you?
I don't know about that. I don't think so. Not that side of the story, but
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean,
did you confront that person?
Well, again, I had already talked to him about talking to my clients, period, so.
Wow.
But it's happened to a few trainers here, actually, yeah, where they come up, I can give you this rate or I can do this for you. And, obviously that's not
Have you
cool.
experienced that here, Mike?
not that style of poaching,
Yeah.
no.
Wow, that's awful. Sorry about that, man.
Yeah, that's all good. That's no big deal. You live and learn.
So, okay, then on the flip side of that, what's it like working with and around other trainers where you're sort of coworkers, but you're sort of independent?
Right. I think, at the facility I was at, it was good because it was somewhat smaller, and the family we had, we were pretty close, a lot like what we have here. So we worked out together a lot. We, did things together on weekends or whatever it may be. And so that aspect was good. We didn't have a whole lot of pressure because we were already self-sufficient. The competition level was high. It's like, oh, I got this in, or I got this in. And so everybody was trying to work towards those goals. So we didn't necessarily have a lot of fighting or issues with, having problems with each other. But yeah, I think it was a good experience there. Yeah, that's all I can really say about that.
What about the people that are training in the gym, like training other people, but they don't work there?
Oh, right. Little buster. Yeah. Little busters.
Man, that's tough, right? Like, okay, they're not supposed to. One. Like, so if you're thinking of that, you're just going to use a gym to train your private clients. That's not going to happen.
Not pay
Not
for
at a
it.
box gym.
Yeah, they're
Not at a
going to
box
catch
gym.
you
Quickly.
Yes.
I remember people used to come in the gym like that, and my supervisor was on them like white on rice.
Yeah.
Quick. Hey, sir, you guys working out together? What's going on here, bud? I remember he always called people bud. How you doing, bud? And so they'd say, oh, well, I'm just you can't do that. Sorry. Gotta go.
And all the lines that you may have lined up to fool them, you're not fooling anybody.
Right. I got confronted for that one time in Montana, which I wasn't training the person for money. It was funny. I was a member at a different gym, and a friend introduced me to this lady and said, hey, she needs some help. And she had an exercise science degree, so she said, we help her. So I went and met her and talked to her and said, yeah, let's go to your gym and I'll show you how to use some of this stuff. And so I went to her gym, and she asked if she could have a guest pass or whatever. So I just went and I showed her how to use some stuff. And obviously they're watching me think I'm training this gal. So we get done and she walks out, and I went to the bathroom and I'm walking out, and the owner of the gym comes up and walks me. He's like, hey, bud, what are you doing? Are you training that lady here and you're not paying for rent in my gym? I was like, wow.
Right.
No, actually, she didn't pay me. She's just a friend of a friend. I was helping her out. And he's like, then he got calmed down. Right. He's like, oh, okay, cool. But if you ever want, to try and come and train people here, let me know. I was like, you lost that opportunity, man, by being all me.
Right,
me that
right,
way.
sure. right.
But yeah, it's an interesting environment trying to train in a gym. And if you're not paying for rent, you're going to get in trouble.
Quickly.
So let's go into the ways that you can get clients at a big box gym. At LA Fitness, you can get spoon-fed clients, right, that they sell, and they just sort of set you up.
Pass you off to clients right away. Yep.
You can get your own clients that walk in the door or training there. You can always get referrals from your existing clients, right? Here's another way too. When a trainer leaves,
Yep.
Oh,
right? When a trainer
Half
leaves,
of my business was that, because the turnover in trainer in corporate gyms is so fast, and so if you can stick around long enough, like half your clients or more are going to be people that were trainer left because they couldn't make it, so you picked up a client.
right? So it's if you want to befriend people, because do it for the right reasons, but if you're not personable, if every trainer just doesn't like you,
Trainers will give you a heads up they're leaving,
Yep.
Yeah.
and they will say, hey, and they'll try and hook you up even before the management gets involved.
Right.
But I've learned that if a trainer is like, "Hey, I have a client for you," my question is always like, "What's wrong?
What's wrong with them?
Yep.
All of us know that one.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know. What happened?
Why didn't it work out with you?
Yeah. So
Yep.
that's always a fun one whenever someone's going to offer me the client.
Yeah, I want to keep that one.
So what are some other things that the listener should be aware of when it comes to working for and at a big box gym?
Well, I think one of my biggest ones I want people to be aware of is when I first started working at a big box gym, like it's an interesting dynamic. Mike's environment sounds a little bit nicer than mine was, where you even referred to him as like family.
Right.
My gym was not that way. Working at Equinox, I wouldn't say it was like super competitive, like tear each other apart, but it also wasn't like a close-knit group, at least the gym that I worked in, because there's a lot, like the turnover rate in trainers is a lot. And you're trying to compete for clients that it's only the members in the gym. And so the trainer relationships and the competition for clients and stuff, it creates a little bit of a tough environment sometimes. Like it's an interesting road to kind of maneuver through and handle. Sometimes it gets a little tough or even sometimes like just a little downright aggressive. So it's something to be aware of when you go into a big box gym, that you're trying to train people and they're trying to train people, and there's only so many clients available, and they want to make money, you want to make money. There gets to be conflict.
So you had a real cutthroat environment.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Very cutthroat.
For the listener who doesn't know about Equinox, it's an exclusive gym, right? Like the membership exceeds $130 a month,
Right.
Oh, easy. That's like base.
right?
Right.
Yeah. So you're not going to have the massive numbers like you would at LA Fitness or 24 Hour or something like that.
Right.
So there's less people to even choose from, right? So what advice would you guys have for someone who says, okay, I'm gonna start my career in a big box gym? What should I look for? What should I look out for, and why? What advice do you guys have?
I think it's important when you're starting off to know where you want to go or where you would like to go. So essentially, if you want to be in the business of training for life, you got to have an exit strategy. You got to have a plan of how do I get and maximize as much as I can in this facility and then branch out, because there's always going to be a cap. You're always going to make them way more money than you're going to make yourself.
Yep.
And if you do want to, have a life and enjoy those things, and you're definitely going to have to get out and break away. So having an exit strategy or some type of plan of what you want to do to get away from the corporate box gym is always going to be important.
Well, I think we're going to have an episode fully on that. Like, how do you
Yeah.
break away, right?
Right.
That's
Totally,
for
yeah.
another show.
Right.
So I know there's a lot of people in the forums asking questions like, do I need to work at a big box gym? Is that a necessary requirement, or can I just start like training people out of my garage or at their house? Is it necessary? My answer to that is it's not, but it is a great way to start building your base, right? Because like, where else are you going to get people walking through the door, hundreds, and you can get your training base there and then branch off and become independent. But yeah, I think it's going to be a lot harder if you start off and not go to a box gym.
It's hard to get access to people that want to train if you're not at a big box gym, and it's hard to get into the community, into the environment, to get exposure that you're a trainer. Right. It's just hard to do a lot of that stuff. You can do it certainly, but it's a different road to take that. Big box gym also teaches you a lot of different dynamics of the training world that you're not going to be able to get necessarily very easily.
Right.
I think your road to learning, the learning curve, is going to be potentially a lot longer if you don't go through a big box gym, like at least initially.
Right.
And I'm not going to put a time frame on that, but you start a big box gym, you're going to learn a lot of stuff real quickly. Your learning curve is going to be faster, I think.
Right. You're going to learn sales
Yeah.
from multiple people. You're going to learn training styles because,
Yep.
you know, you're going to watch your buddies,
Lots
how
of
they
trainers
train.
around. Yep.
Right.
And no one trains the same.
Grow your skills a ton from other people.
Right.
You're going to be exposed to a lot of equipment that you certainly can't have in your
Right.
garage.
Right.
Right. And
Yep.
so those are all really positive things. So yeah, the episode on how to transition, I think that's going to be one of the most important ones because I wish that I had some help. I wish that someone would have helped guide me in that time because it's probably one of the scariest times, right?
Very scary.
It's hard. Yeah. I'm glad that
And rough.
I had some guys in front of me that did it a couple months before I did. And so kind of you were saying you wish you had somebody show me. I kind of had that. I feel like I got to ride on the backs of the guys that were in front of me a little bit,
Right.
making that move. And so it made mine a little bit less stressful, but I saw, and like what you're alluding to, that it could be a difficult process to figure out.
Right.
So yeah, that'll be a great episode. You should stay tuned.
Yeah. I mean, if someone told me that somebody like Jennings was going to be here at Matador,
You would have came sooner. No.
Shut up.
I'd have been like, man, I don't know about this guy.
I'm there right now.
He's always using all the stuff, all the toys. He's always in my space.
Speaking of toys,
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to our segment of the show talking about gym gadgets.
gym
Jam
gadgets.
gadgets.
Lots of gadgets.
This is one of Michael's favorites.
What do we got here, Russ?
What is this? Oh boy.
Man, I think
I
that's
don't even
mean.
know what to call it.
That's
Right.
mean.
Right.
What
Like
is that?
It's like a porcupine.
Right.
Okay, for the listener who does, you know, our show is on YouTube also, but
Right. If you can't see this because you're audio,
Yeah.
it looks like a half circle full of spikes.
Right.
It's the porcupine.
Right.
okay, yeah, it's air-filled rubber, and
Spree.
we have how many of them? Maybe like 5, 6, right?
Yeah, a number of them.
Okay, what is this used for, and do you use it?
It is a balance pad or
Okay.
balance pod, and you can put one foot on top or you have both feet on top, and it'll help with your balance, and it'll also help the sensory receptors in the bottom of your feet, so you can improve your circulation and improve your balance.
Is this supposed to be used barefoot or with like socks or something?
I'm pretty sure you can use it with socks or barefoot.
Do you use this, Mike?
Sensory motor return. Yes and no. I mean, I think it's a very specific sort of client that you can use this with, a rehab sort of thing setting. But yeah, I have used it. Not very often, but it's a cool little toy, and more than just it like looking weird, it actually has like some good uses.
Right.
Especially even like for athletes and doing rehab training.
Right.
It's very helpful. But it's also just fun too. It throws a dynamic in there that, you know, when trainers get kind of stuck in a rut, you want to throw a wrinkle in there so you get a little less bored in your
Right.
programming. And you know, it's fun to throw toys in there. Clients like it, makes it entertaining.
Right.
So yeah.
So this thing actually has a name. It's called, or the brand is
Brand is
SPRI.
Spree.
Okay, I've never used that. I mean, I've seen it.
Russ has got a whole bunch of other toys we'll talk
Right.
about later.
Yeah. But like for the clients who can do it, I always imagine that people are going to like sort of hop onto it and hop off, right? So maybe that's why. Maybe I'm using it wrong, but
Right.
yeah. I mean, for balance, I use some other stuff, but I can see. But what leads me to thinking that you're supposed to hop is because we have so many,
Right.
right? Is that not right? Or like,
mean-
I've seen people like sort of go left and right, or no?
Right. You could, but it could be we having so many for each person.
Multiple
Multiple
trainers.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Right.
And they come in like a set too, in different colors, stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you can even just use one. I usually use just one because you use it with the balance. You have some person stand on it
Right.
with their socks on or whatever, or barefoot, like Mike's saying, and you
Right.
get proprioceptive return in the bottom of your feet, and
Right.
it requires a lot of ankle balance, knee balance.
Now I know why I don't use it, because I do that, but trying to get them to wear 5-finger shoes.
5-finger shoes.
Yeah.
Russ is a big 5-finger fan.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's where I try to get that work in. But anyway, we're at the end of the show. Thanks again for listening. And I hope you got something out of that.
Right. Something. Hey.
Yeah. Well, whatever your decision is, go to a big box gym. Don't go to a big box gym. That's your personal choice. I personally think you're going to gain a lot from it.
Right.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from the listeners their stories. I mean, I know there's going to be trainers out there that have not trained at big box gyms, and how did they make it? That would be a great story. A lot of trainers, the majority of trainers start a big box gym. Like, hit us up with your stories. Let us know what they are. And if you have questions about working in big box gyms, man, we'd love to hear them. See if we can offer some guidance.
Right. Yeah. All right. See you in the next episode.
Yo.
On.
Thanks for checking out the Fit Fellows podcast. You best be tuned in next week when they drop that knowledge for your We welcome your input and feedback, and you can find out more about the show at www.thefitfellows.com. Thanks again for listening or watching. We out. Peace.